All right, EE Live Facebook members. Actually, I guess I should call it the Express Entry Law Facebook group members. This is the EE Live Q&A that I'm doing today. Boy, it's already been a long day. I'll give it just a few minutes for everyone to jump on here, and for all those who are going to be tuning in live. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, remember you can participate as well by sending me questions to my email address, mholthy@stringham.ca, right here. And if you put EE Live Q&A in your subject line, just like all of my other friends right here, and I'll zoom in, you can see EE Live Q&A. If you put that in your subject line, then you will be able to get your questions answered, even though you may not have been attending live. All right, we've got Ralph and Bella. Hey, guys, my two favorite people. Fantastic. Oh, there's a thumbs up from Ralph. Hey, it is so awesome to have you join me. Those are two of my favorite people, just like family, and in fact, they are past clients as well. But hey, when you become a client, you become a friend and a family member. So awesome, Bella. It is so good to have you join us. And I see other people are slowly starting to pile on here, and Bella's giving me an awe. Oh, Bella. Bella has got the cutest little baby in the history of the world, and a Canadian citizen, the first one in their family. But it won't be too long, Bella and Ralph, before you guys are going to be able to apply for your own citizenship. So this is really, really exciting. Jita, thanks. Why don't you guys let me know where you're tuning in from? I'm always curious to see where people are listening and watching the EE Live Q&A. It also helps me to know when the best time is to do this show. And it's interesting, a while back I actually did a poll to see when the best time would be, but it was all over the place. And in fact, people told me Saturday evening at 9 p.m. was the best time to do it. So guess what I did? I changed it to Saturday at 9 p.m. And guess what happened? The same number of people showed up live for that as are showing up here during the day when it's most convenient for me. All right, Bella's saying, yes, so special, thanks to you. Awesome. So, Ralph, you bet. You guys are in Edmonton, very cool. Gita is in the Cayman Islands, very cool. Where are the rest of you guys tuning in from? Everything's good, Ahmed. He's asking me if everything's okay. All right, well, we'll let other people tune in and let us know where you're listening in from. But I promised in this EE Live Q&A that I was going to, one, touch on the upcoming changes that are happening to the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program. And then I had a few questions that, and this is just to help guide it. So anyone who's looking and watching this video after will be able to decide whether there were questions that appealed to them or not. I'm going to cover a little bit of medical inadmissibility. That was one question that I received. People were asking me again about whether or not they should include their spouse or not within their application, and the impacts of that. I also had some other questions about work history, and there's a variety of different ones. Ahmed, of course, is in Egypt. You bet, Ahmed. And I had a good visit with Ahmed the other day. It's awesome to have you joining us. John Dan says, hey man, how are you? I'm doing good. It's interesting, when I did I think some of you may have remembered I did a live little feed from Waterton, and one of the people that was listening in, he says, don't you go anywhere else? Why do you just go to Waterton? And I resisted the temptation to block him from our group because it was a fair question. But boy, I'll tell you, I sure miss, now that the weather's starting to turn cold, and I've been pretty busy with volleyball. We sure haven't had a chance to get out there very much lately. But I think I told most of you guys, about the us hitting that stupid deer. Anyways, my son's leg is healing, and the truck is getting repaired, and life is getting returned back to normal. But it's nice to finally, after everything that's gone on, be able to jump back in and do another one of these EE Live Q&As for all of you. All right, let's start off with this new announcement that we just received regarding the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program. Now, initially I thought, hey, this could be really, really good. There might be an opportunity here for some of you to actually be able to immigrate to Alberta directly without the need for a job offer or having work experience in Alberta. However, when we look at the actual explanation, I'm going to jump right there right now. I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to go here and blow this up big, and I think everybody should be able to see this. The new stream, in the past, they had a number of different streams. Employer-driven, skilled worker, and you can see it here on the left side here. I'm not sure if I can kind of highlight a little bit. Employer-driven stream, strategic recruitment stream. Wow, I've got everything bouncing around here. Self-employed farmer stream. Well, all of these are being all pulled into one main stream called the Alberta Opportunity Stream. And instead of it being based on employer-driven applications, where an employer, to some extent, can hold the individual ransom, and I shouldn't really describe it as that, but they have to stay working for that employer in order to have their application continue. And in Alberta, with the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program, it doesn't participate in express entry right now, but it will in the future. But if I scroll down to the very bottom, you will see here, actually, sorry, I'll scroll up here and I will go to the news section. You will see here that Alberta will also have an Alberta Express Entry right here system that will allow Alberta to nominate a limited number of qualified applicants from the Government of Canada's Express Entry system. So it may be possible, folks, it may be that they open it up similar to Saskatchewan or Ontario, for example, for Alberta to select a small number of people through that route. And trust me, the moment I hear more details about it, and I'm going to try and talk to the AINP to get some more information, I will let all of you know. So, Alberta may be getting into the game, everyone. But with that being said, the criteria, and I'm not going to go through all of this because it's not really important for a lot of you unless you're actually living and working in Alberta. But the reality is they're going away from specific industry streams based on being sponsored by a direct employer to more just your experience that you have actually working in Alberta and to some extent Canada at large. But the key is that you're here in Alberta. And you can see there's occupation requirements, the residency status and work permit requirements are pretty locked in. If you do not have work experience and you're not working in Alberta, then none of this matters. They're adding language assessments, which were not a requirement before when you were applying as a skilled worker in Alberta, so that's changing. And then they're adding, and it always has really been there for the most part for the skilled workers, but you have to have at least the equivalent of a Canadian high school diploma. All right? And when it comes to work experience, a minimum of 12 months of full-time work experience in your current occupation in Alberta within the last 18 months, or a minimum of 24 months of full-time work experience in your current occupation in Canada and or abroad within the last 30 months. And so this work experience can be combined with a combination of Alberta and abroad. But the reality is with all of this, and as I skip through here, you also need to have a minimum income level. So you can see depending upon how many people are in your family, there is a low income cutoff, a threshold that you have to be able to show that you make in terms of income in a given year. So this is just what your wages are. It doesn't compare with the low income cutoff that shows how much money you actually have to be able to produce. This is just the wage that you're earning in Alberta, and that's the difference. And so that's just a very quick lightning overview of the Alberta Opportunity Stream, which will come live on January the 2nd, 2018. What they've released to us right now is mostly going to be applicable to people currently working in Alberta. So if you are, give me a call. We can talk about it, and I can help you to understand exactly what you need to do. Send me an email to mholthy@stringham.ca, or just connect with me through Facebook Messenger or whatever means that you can find me. I'm everywhere. So, but for the rest of you, stay tuned, because like I said, when we go back here to the news, you'll see here that there is a possible opportunity for Alberta to start pulling people from the express entry pool, depending upon the occupations that I have to assume are in demand in Alberta. Okay, but we'll find out more information. We just haven't had much released at this stage. Okay, so there is a quick little overview for all of you wonderful people. about the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program and the upcoming changes that are looking very exciting. All right, now I'm going to shift gears and I'm going to hit the next topic, which is, it was sent to me from Mooserat. And Mooserat's got a very, very tricky situation that applies to some of you out there. And I'm not going to go through the whole email because it's quite long, but the reality is Mooserat has a husband who is handicapped as a result of polio that he contracted when he was only a year old. And now he's crippled and walks with a crutch on one side only. However, he has experienced tremendous professional success in his life. He drives and moves around just like everybody else. He's not on any medication because of the problem, and he has not been a burden on the country's medical resources since his permanent disability doesn't require any medical help. So the question is there any chance that he could be found medically inadmissible to Canada? So medical inadmissibility comes down to Section 38 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, which reads that a foreign national is inadmissible on health grounds if their health condition, and this is the key, might reasonably be expected to cause excessive demand on health or social services in Canada. And so one of the factors recently, well, I shouldn't say recently, it's been a few years now, but the court allows people to actually show whether or not they personally can cover any costs for social services that would otherwise be covered by the Canadian healthcare system. So before, if a person, it was anticipated that they would require either health or social services at a level above the average per capita for what a Canadian would normally use from our health system, then if they were above that level, then it would be considered excessive demand on our health system. But for those who may require social services to assist them, and possibly polio could be included in that category, people have an ability to demonstrate how they will be able to cover their own costs and that they won't need to cause any drain on Canadian health or social services. Well, there was a Supreme Court of Canada decision called Hillowitz that basically determined that the basis for a medical admissibility determination for excessive demand required an individual assessment of the person's condition, capabilities, and actual needs, together with the availability of family support. So basically, they have to consider an applicant's ability and intention to pay for any social services they may require. Well, in the reality here, when we look at Mooserat's question here about her husband and his polio, it says that he doesn't access any medical or any social services, but he's totally functioning. And one of my best friends, his mother has polio. And so in those circumstances, every case is assessed on its individual merits. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to cause any drain, then there's likely not going to be an inadmissibility for anything. So that's basically how it plays out. So that's medical inadmissibility. And thank you for your question, Mooserat. Okay, next we're going to jump to this whole area of spouses and whether or not to include them. So this one is from Pavan, I think is the name. And the question is, I'm a member of your Facebook Express Entry group. I follow your updates regularly and appreciate your guidance. My question with regards to Express Entry is, what is a better thing to do? Should I apply for my PR as the primary applicant with my spouse and dependent child, or should I apply individually as of now and then sponsor my spouse and kid after I settle in Canada? Which is the best option amongst the two and the easiest one? After receiving PR, by what time do you have to land in Canada, and what is the time frame? Okay, so many people are scratching their heads and they're wondering, well, what is this about? Why would I want to leave my spouse behind? Well, right now, as the comprehensive ranking system works, spouses, individuals that are married, are potentially punished because of their spouses. If their spouse does not have good language skills or good education or any Canadian work experience, then you could potentially lose up to 40 points. So if you have yourself really high human capital factors and your spouse has really low, well, if you list your spouse as non-accompanying, then your application is evaluated based on you being unmarried, well, or a single applicant. Now, yes, you are, but for the purposes of the comprehensive ranking system score, if your spouse is non-accompanying, then you would be assessed as an individual applicant. And for some people, it can make the difference between being granted an ITA and not. So, because of that, some people are really wrestling with the decision of whether or not to include their spouse. Well, when it comes to this, Pavan, whether or not to include them, this is entirely up to you, my friend. You have to decide whether you want to be separated from your spouse for a time. And the reality is, you never ever want to go through with this, excluding your spouse, without actually identifying them in your express entry application. So you must list that you're married, you must list that you have a spouse, but then you list that they're non-accompanying. Because if you don't disclose them, you could be forever barred from sponsoring them in the future pursuant to Section 117(9)D of the immigration regulations. So you need to be very careful. Now, I will tell you, in terms of timing, I just went through the process with one of the members of our Express Entry Law Facebook group to add a spouse to her application that was listed as non-accompanying after she filed her EAPR. So sometimes circumstances change, and people, maybe you don't want to bring your spouse initially, but then after you get your ITA, you submit your EAPR, and then the government starts to request your passport, you may decide, well, darn, my spouse, actually they've changed their mind and they want to come. Or there might be some other circumstances that happen that makes you required to change your mind and then bring them. Well, as the law stands right now, you do have the ability to add a spouse before you land and become a permanent resident of Canada. So between the time period when you file your EAPR and when you actually land, you can then change your mind. And there's a process that I assist people with in doing that. And you can contact me and we can walk through that process with you. But as it stands right now, as long as you're not misrepresenting anything, you actually can add a spouse on before you land. And all of those negative 40 points, well, your comprehensive ranking score is locked in at the time in which you receive your ITA, and your EAPR has been assessed as being complete. So in your situation, you can either add them on after, but before you finalize your permanent residence, or you can land and then, provided that spouse was medically examined, had their police clearances completed, and they went through that whole process, you can choose to add them after through a traditional spousal sponsorship process. And right now that's taking right around a year, maybe a little bit under, depending on the country you're applying from. But that option is available, and ultimately, Pavan, your question, it really depends on what you and your family want to do. And then I also had a similar question as well from Ahmed, and about excluding and whether or not to bring spouses and everything. So that answers those two questions. Okay, next question. We're now diving into work history. And this one is from Vinu. And Vino says, how are you feeling today? I believe you're not keeping well. Yeah, I was a little under the weather there for a while, but I'm fit and smiling as always, so I'm back at it. And in fact, today, I wasn't quite able to get on my bike and ride over because I had a checkup with these crazy braces, and I had a new heavier gauge wire put in. So my teeth here are a little bit sensitive today. But hey, it's life, and I'm just going to ride it out, and I'm not going to cry anymore because it's just life. I just have to get these things. To fix this tooth right here, that is a fake tooth. Anyways, more information that everyone probably needed, and I also spoke about it in a past EE Live Q&A, so I won't bore you all. Okay, so back to Vinu's question. I'm planning to apply for express entry, and I want to know the following. All right, so Vino has actually asked a few questions, and normally I don't answer so many all at once, but I'm going to do it this time for Vino. So the first question is, can the visa officer refuse my application for Canadian immigration under express entry if he is not convinced even after my employer confirms my employment during verification? The answer is, yeah, an officer can refuse anything that they want to refuse, but it has to be reasonable. In other words, it cannot be an error in law or an error in fact. So if they just disregard evidence to prove that you do have legitimate, authentic work experience, an officer can't just say, no, I'm not going to accept it just because I don't believe anyone. They can, I guess to some extent, but if you've provided evidence, and that evidence clearly shows you've got that work experience, then an officer has to be able to justify and provide support for why they refused. If they refuse in those circumstances, then you can actually apply to the federal court to judicially review the refusal of that officer. All right? But yeah, officers can do whatever they want. All right, next question. I need to get a police clearance from Australia as I've lived for more than 6 months in Sydney in the past. Do I apply for name check only or fingerprint? Well, this is a good opportunity for me to teach all of you. Where do I get information on how to apply for my police clearance? So this is the question. I know that I need to get one from a country. In this case, it's Australia. So we'll put here, police clearance, CIC, how to get a police certificate. And I'm going to blow this up. All right, so we're just going to go to Australia right here. We're going to click on A. We're going to find Australia, and we select that. And then we go down, and Vinu doesn't say where they, they said in Sydney, sorry. So we can see here, for residents of Queensland, and you need a traffic history and a full license history search for the residents of Victoria only. But for those of you, if you are a citizen of Australia, then you follow these instructions. I suspect Vinu, based on what I see here, probably isn't a citizen. So if you're not a citizen of Australia, but if you live in Australia, you can click here. If you no longer live there, then you can click here and get information. And so you can see here, you must apply through the Australian Federal National Police check, and you can go right to this link to get information on it. So Australian Federal Police. And this is where you go. And so in terms of whether or not you need a fingerprint or whether or not you can do a name search, each country has their own instructions on how to do it, and you need to follow them. In most cases, I'll be honest, fingerprints are usually required. A name search doesn't quite cut it, but some countries that's all you can do. So because I couldn't tell Vinu exactly what whether you were a citizen or whether you're still living there, you indicate that you had lived. So I know what it is, but you're just going to have to follow these instructions and follow exactly what the Australian government is asking you to do. It's as simple as that, and you'll get the answer right there. Okay, then the next question that Vinu asks, and I'm going to go back here to my full screen again. So Vinu asks, do I need to disclose the details of all of my previous and current employers in my EE application? The answer is nope, you do not. You only need to disclose, at least when it comes to work history, the work history that you actually want to include within to be assessed for comprehensive ranking system points. That's the only work experience you need to include in your work history. So if you've got unskilled work experience or work experience that's older than 10 years or work experience that doesn't fit within your primary NOC that you just don't need to include, then you do not need to list it in your work history section. However, when you're granted your ITA and you are filing your EAPR, there is a personal history where you need to fully disclose all of the activities, everything that you've been doing, usually back to a 10-year period, so back 10 years. All right? So the answer is, if you want to claim CRS points, yep, include it. If you don't need to do that. Include it within the work history. And I think that basically answers most of your questions, Vinu. Okay. All right, next one. This one is from Arshana, And Arshana says, Dear Mark, adore your videos a lot. You're doing awesome work. Thank you. Thank you, Arshana. I appreciate it. I've discovered from your Express Entry Live videos that you too were a high school teacher. Yep, I was for one glorious year before I decided to go to law school. All right, I need your help in this regard, she says. I teach social sciences to classes 7 and 8 standard in an Indian school. According to Indian education system, classes 7 and 8 fall under the primary education. And she lists the NOC code under the NOC 2011. That's the National Occupational Classification System. She lists a NOC code of 4032. Whereas in Canada, classes 7 and 8 falls under junior high or secondary school, NOC code 4031. So here's the issue. When we are assessing this, and basically Arshana wants to know which one is right, and because her employer will only certify her as a primary school teacher in the reference letter. Well, it all comes down to your duties. And so when you're assessing your NOC qualifications, Arshana, you need to take a look at the duties and match them up with the description, the job description within the NOC code. So it doesn't matter what your employer in India classifies you as. It's what you're actually working in within Canada. Now, primary and secondary, middle school, that 7 to 8 range is kind of in middle ground because high school is considered secondary. And primary, in other words, grades 1 to 6, or even 1 to 5 in some instances, like the schools here in Lethbridge, are considered primary. But then there's that middle ground. And so it's not a huge distinction, but I would recommend that if that is how classifications are, that you match your duties up with the NOC that applies or describes how things are categorized in Canada. So in this case, without reviewing your job description and without looking at things carefully, if you feel that what you're doing matches more closely with what would be considered secondary school or junior high in Canada, then that's the NOC code you use. It doesn't matter what India, how they classify it for their purposes. All right? Okay, great question. All right, next question is from Abdul. And Abdul says, I know you are too busy to reply. Well, hey, I'm making time for you, my friend. I'm making time. I would like to apply for Express Entry, but I am confused about my sales. So I was confused about my sales job experience, whether it is National Occupation List or not. If you kindly clear me the matter, I'm MBA holder and 6 years of sales job experience. Can I eligible for Express Entry? Okay, so right off the bat, this is something, Abdul, that I wouldn't be able to answer, definitively, because I don't know what you're doing as a sales job. Certain sales jobs are considered to be skilled and some are considered to be unskilled. There is no occupation list for the purposes of the general Express Entry assessment. So it doesn't matter what occupation you work in, just whether or not it's considered to be skilled. There are provinces across the country of Canada that have provincial nominee programs or immigrant nominee programs that do have special programs based on your actual NOC. So based on those, you can do the classification that you have does make a difference. But generally speaking, you just go to the National Occupational Classification System, the NOC 2011, and search up your title. If you can't find it first right off by title, then you have to kind of work your way through industry. But it's not too difficult to find a salesperson NOC within the NOC 2011. You can find it pretty easy. And I will try to put a link to actually a blog post that I did on this topic. And I wanted to show all of you something. This here, right here, Canadian Immigration Podcast, is a source of really good information that I do, and I host it on iTunes as well. But this right here, I'll make sure that I am actually showing my screen. Yes. This is another source of information that I don't traditionally plug to you guys. But when it comes to some Express Entry categories like secret knock. We'll just put that, see if that will pull it up. I have written blogs to help you navigate through Express Entry, and this is one of them that I wrote a while back. It's been 2 years now, but I recently updated it in June, so it is totally current. This is where I will direct you to, Abdul. This one right here, Express Entry, the secret to finding your correct knock. I know, in fact, that if you Google that title or anything close to it, it will pop up directly, so you can find it because it gets a ton of traffic. And this goes through everything that you need to do in order to determine what your correct knock is. And I rely on a ton of things, including the government's own instruction on how to do it. But you'll see here that there's specific information, everything that will help you to determine your correct knock, inclusive this great tool, which some of you may know, that's designed to help you find your knock. And so my little podcast here actually is a supplement to that little tool. And so I think you'll love it. It's really good, and guaranteed it will help you. All right, so that's that, and I'll shift back here now. Okay, we're covering a ton of ground here. This is awesome. Now, I saved the best for last. And this one, I'm going to just cover her email so I don't disclose that. This one is from Martha Villegas. And Villegas, actually, is probably how it's pronounced. Martha is this person right here. Oh, it's a little bit sideways. But who gave me an awesome testimonial. And so with my Express Entry complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. So now is a perfect time for me to notify you about my sponsor right here of the EE Live Q&A, the Express Entry complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. So those of you who are wondering, okay, well, it's nice to get answers, but where can I go to get guidance on actually how to do this? Start to finish, step by step, everything from registering your MyCIC account all the way through to submitting your profile, getting your ITA, filing your EAPR, all of these acronyms, all the way through to receiving your visa request, your passport request, and your confirmation of permanent residence document. So all the way through, this Express Entry complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself is the place for you guys all. And because some of you are watching this on YouTube, I'm just going to pull up right quick here the link that you can go to, and this is I'll try to put it on my face on the YouTube channel as well, but I'm just going to put up the link right here. And it's quite long, but that way you will all have it, those of you who are actually watching. Oh, that did not work very good. Get that off of there. That's super big, super long. I need to change the font color. And it's a long link, but it's definitely going to be white if I can get it to go white. I think it is white now. I think. Oh, for goodness sakes. I don't know how this thing works. Half of the time I don't. Oh, here, let's flip this off. And I can't even change it. It's so huge and massive. Even on my ugly head here, it just fits up the whole screen. Whatever. I'll put it in the link. I'll put it in the comment section below here. And I will also post it in the comments on our YouTube channel when we spin this off. So anyways, there you go. So after all that being said, Martha gave me an awesome testimonial. And sometimes when you go through it, you have additional questions. And so sometimes you can ask them here, like I'm answering Martha's, or you can book a consultation with me. And you can do that by sending an email. Well, really, you could send an email to me to set up a consult, or to my assistant, Charlene. And Charlene's email is charlene@stringham.ca. There's Charlene's right there. So if you want to book a consult, that's probably the best way to go. And I can answer all of your questions. And I had a great meeting with another of my Express Entry Law group members today, an awesome consult. And I think he's in India, and we had a great Skype call. All right. Okay, so let's go to Martha's question here. So Martha asked, she said, good morning, Mark. I'm glad I'm able to catch the announcement in time for today's Q&A. I wonder, Martha, are you on? I didn't see you. I wasn't sure if you were. Anyways, life has been a little hectic lately, and I've missed the opportunity to attend your live sessions for a while. No problem at all, Martha. I'm preparing to submit my EE profile, and I have a couple questions that I hope you can help me with. All right. So, first one, she says, Wes assessment of my husband transcripts came back with a 3-year diploma. Does this classify them under the bachelor's degree category? Yes, Martha, that is the case. And so I'm going to go here just for Martha's sake, because she was awesome enough to give me that testimonial. So I'm going to go out of my way to answer her question. So if we go CRS criteria, that should be enough. Yes. And then we go down to the points, and we'll go down to education. And so the question asked by Martha was a 3-year, if I was assessed at a 3-year. And here's your answer, Martha. So a bachelor's degree or a 3 or more year program at a university, college, trade, technical school, or other institute. So if your husband got a 3-year diploma, then yes, you would get the 100, well, if it was you, it would be 112, but obviously you scroll down to the spouse section right here, and for spouses, and you can see it would be the bachelor's degree. This one, that would give you 8 points. Okay, so that's the first one. Then the next one was, for me, Wes came back with a 4-year bachelor's degree. And so if we scroll back down here to here, you'll see 4-year degree and a 1-year postgraduate diploma. Will this put it under 2 or more certificate categories? Yes, indeed. 2-year program is that one. Bachelor's degree. Your situation, Martha, is 2 or more certificates. And remember, one must be for a program of 3 or more years. And you said you had 4 years, so you're going to get 119 points for your education. All right, very cool. All right, and then the last question for Martha. She says, as of today, I'm assuming a new role in the company I work at. This new role comes with a slightly different job description than my previous position. I was in my previous role for 2 years and 2 months, and the one before that was 4 years and 5 months. Okay, so all of that is still within the 10-year period, so remember that. That's important. Which should be the NOC that I claim? Should it be my current position? Should the time performing any given job be a deciding factor in the NOC selection? Absolutely, Martha. Because the reality with you and your education and your husband's education and your age, I'm positive you're already going to meet the federal skilled worker 67-point eligibility threshold. So that's going to be met. But for the comprehensive ranking system, you are only going to max out points with 3 years or more of skilled work experience. So in your case, if I was looking at this, and the work experience that you have is all at a skilled level, remember, it can't be low skill, then if you have 4 years and 5 months with one position, then that's the only position that I would worry about getting reference letters for and including in your work history. All the other experience from the standpoint of assessing your work experience is all redundant. It's all irrelevant. Because after you have 3 years of skilled work experience, then, well, you're not getting any more comprehensive ranking system points. You've maxed out your work history. And I'm going to go right back here if I can find it. Let's see. I'm going to go. Okay, so if you go up here, actually I'm going to scroll down. I'll show you. On the skill transferability factors here, so we keep going. Here we go, skill transferability factors. And I'm sorry I scroll so fast, you guys. It just is what it is. Okay, so you can see there's the education. Okay, so if you have foreign work experience right here, that combined with both language or Canadian work experience can help to get you more points. But foreign work experience right here, you can see it maxes out after 3 years or more. And then if you've got good education, good language skills, at least a CLB 9 or more, then you can get 50 points here. And then when you combine your foreign work experience, once again, maxed out at 3 years, and if you have over 2 years or more of Canadian, you can get another 50. But anyways, that's why In your case, I wouldn't worry about too much about anything other than using the 4 years and 5 month period if you can get a good reference letter from that employer. All right? And then she says, thanks in advance for your assistance and muchas gracias for sharing your knowledge with us to make this journey easier. You are very welcome, Martha. All right. Now it is the reward time for all of you live attendees. I'm going to go back here. Now, it is time to jump back and answer your questions, all of you live folks. I will do my best to answer a few time-wise. We're about 40 minutes right now, so I'll take another 10 minutes to answer the live questions. Okay, Shika says, did I miss the Alberta upcoming Express Entry news? I did it very first, Shika. But you can go and you can go to the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program website, and you can go there and you can actually read what the government has released so far. So there's not a lot of details, just general information, but you can get it there. Or wait till this live video gets posted, and then you can just watch the very beginning part. All right. Okay, Masama says, hey, Masama. And then Ahmed, Mark Wolfie, I missed how you... There you go. All right, all the questions are done. Ahmed says, I missed how you throw those papers behind your shoulders once you're done with your Q&A questions. That is hilarious. Awesome. Very cool. And you know what? Ahmed has been around for a while because I haven't thrown him for quite a while. Awesome. Okay, Herman says, hello, do horticulture have good opportunity in Canada? Whew, that's a tough question. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, whether there's jobs available for you, because absolutely Canada is a huge agricultural country. We have tons of agriculture. We grow tons of crops, all different kinds, whether it's fruit to vegetables to grain. So there are definitely tons of opportunities in Canada, Herman. Atul says, which one is better to apply for, CEC or Federal Skilled Worker, if eligible for both? Well, Atul, it's pretty simple. When you submit your profile into Express Entry, the government actually chooses for you. And they always select the Canadian Experience class first if you meet the eligibility requirements for it. And, in fact, CEC applications are coming back really fast. So people that are qualifying under the Canadian Experience class, their applications are being assessed. I heard once one of my colleagues reported 6 weeks, folks. Not 6 months. 6 weeks processing. That's how fast a CEC came back. And we, in fact, within our office, are experiencing about 2 to 3 months for a CEC application to be approved. So the government will choose for you, Atul, and if you are lucky enough to qualify under CEC, then fantastic, my friend, because you are in an awesome position. Okay, Abder here says, hi Abder. Hind says, which province is better for a secondary English teacher? Well, I can tell you in most provinces, if you're asking about job opportunities, that's one that I can't really answer. But people are asking a lot of questions about this. And at this stage, I haven't made any decisions about setting up a recruitment company or anything here in Canada. I've just decided to focus on my immigration. But if people are wondering what the job opportunities in Canada are, let me show you. All right, I have to remember all these questions so that I can list them when I actually complete the video notes section that describes what I'm covering. But this is a good question. So I'm going to share my screen with you again. I'm going to go back to full screen mode. And I don't think I'm going to shrink this down again. I just got to make sure I don't have anything interfering here. I'm going to push these ones down and just make sure that they're not in the way. Okay, now I'm going to jump back here. All right, so if you want to know what's going on in different industries in Canada and the job opportunities, then you're actually going to go to the job bank. And often what I'll do is I'll type in Canada, maybe if you're outside of Canada, and this will take you to the job bank. And this job bank, many of you are probably aware, is the place where you can get research on different jobs. Up here at the top menu, you can job seekers, so job blurbs, job match, resume, or you can explore careers by occupation. So let's do that. So let's go by occupation, and then let's actually, do you know what, let's go Yeah, we'll go by occupation. We'll see if we can find a teacher here. Okay, so we'll say just a regular teacher. Let's see if we can put in here high school. Okay, high school teacher. Okay, so let's search this. Oh, a city. Okay, let's say we want information for, let's go with Lethbridge. Let's say in my hometown. Okay, all right, so here's the results. We click on this. So this post, this actually shows all of the jobs that people could view, but you can also click on Lethbridge, Alberta, view report, and then it gives you information. And one of the things that it does give is an outlook. And so you can see it gives a series of stars. And basically what that means is if you have 3 stars, it means that there is a real shortage of teachers in this particular area. Well, for Lethbridge, it looks like it's at a 2-star. So it's kind of like the amount of jobs available are somewhat similar to the positions that are being, the people that are looking for jobs. So this is a good place that you can get all kinds of data. You can go in here, like I said, search. You can search by Outlook. And same thing, you type in. So if I do teacher, high school, once again, I click on it and then I search. This will give me a broader outlook of all of the provinces. So Alberta has got 2 out of 3 stars. We'll scroll down till we get to the next province. BC is 2 out of 3 stars. So that's how you can tell whether the your job is in demand or what the occupational outlook looks like for you when you're determining where you want to live, depending upon your work experience. So there you go. There's a little helper for you. All right. Next question. Masuma says, my status is NA2 since 21st of August. File has been transferred to London Visa Office on the 29th. September. Why does London take so much time in Ottawa so less? Well, Masuma, usually inside Canada when you're processing, you know what, there's a whole bunch of reasons why things are faster. Sometimes there are fewer visa officers processing in that visa office. So maybe there are fewer officers in London compared to how many are in Ottawa. Maybe they're doing further background checks that they wouldn't normally have to do depending upon the country that you come from. So it's not an answer that I can really give you, but it is what it is. All right, so Ahmed says, thanks, man. No problem, Ahmed. So Envis said, hi, Mark, I withdrew my application last month. Am I allowed to submit a new EE one? Yeah, basically whenever you withdraw your application, then you have to go back into the pool. And so you either submit a new express entry profile, or in some cases when you decline an ITA, then your profile just goes back in without you having to actually redo it. But in your case, yeah, there's no restrictions if you withdrew. And I didn't ask any questions on why you did that. Okay. Chances of rejection, I wouldn't get so worked up about it, Masuma. The reality is processing times are what they are. The government has dedicated, or they've stated, that they will process 80% of applications within 6 months. That's 80%. There's still 20% that take much longer. In fact, I had one of my clients go down to the U.S. While their EE application was being processed because they got a better job opportunity down there and were going to go and work until they actually became PRs. Well, they had a child down there. And so that child was not a Canadian citizen. And they were an American citizen. And so then we had to add the child on after, and it was painful. It took another 6 months to get that child added on for them to land as permanent residents. So patience, everyone. Patience, patience. Okay. Can I ask my sister to give me the money to prove funds if my girlfriend is the primary applicant? Okay, AJ, this question is for you. I'm assuming your girlfriend is actually your common law spouse, because you couldn't be an eligible dependent if your girlfriend was a primary applicant unless you were actually common law. So I'll assume that's the case. You can get money from whoever you want. You just need to make sure that it is shown as a gift, it's irrevocable, and the funds are they're fully for your use when you settle in Canada. And that's a pretty oversimplistic, but you can get money, but you just make sure that you disclose where it's coming from, and you make very, very clear, that person does, who's giving you the money through a stat dec or some other sworn statement, that it is, it's irrevocable. It's not money that they expect to give back, that it is not a loan to you, and that it is solely for your use settling in Canada. Okay. Ashraful says, can a master's degree be accepted by CIC as 2-year university degree if the bachelor's degree is not completed? Well, the reality is everything you do has to be assessed by an educational credential assessment. If the master's is not completed in Canada, then it just comes down to what that was assessed. If the master's degree was completed in Canada, then it's a master's degree, and it counts as such. But if it's a foreign educational credential that needs an ECA, then you have to go with whatever WES or ICAS or one of the testing agencies equates it to. Let's see here. Neymatula says, hello, sir. I have experience in secondary high school. I now my question is, how can I prepare the reference letter that should be on company letterhead? Okay, I'll just show you quick here. The letterhead has to meet certain specific requirements, at least the letter. And the place I go to do it is the completeness check site. So I type in here, completeness check CIC, and it takes me here to this applications received on or after. And this breaks down what all of your documents need to look like. And so I go down here to proof of work experience, and then you'll see here should include this information. All right? So that's what the reference letter needs to include, and then you can see here that's what it needs to look like. So I'll let you guys, if you want to pause the screen, pause the video, you'll be able to read this. I'm going to keep on trucking to get to a few more questions because we're just about out of time. And in fact, these braces are killing me, folks. So these braces are killing me, so I'm going to need to take a break here for a second. Well, actually, I'm going to need to take a break for the rest of the evening here. Okay. Okay, Atul is actually asking a good question here. So Atul says, thanks for reply, Mark. Another query. If we do 4 months, and unfortunately I'm going to end right now with Atul's question just because it's right at that stage and I don't want these to be too long, and I've talked about so many things that it's not going to be as useful for people who are looking at the video because they won't know exactly everything we're covering. So Atul's question, if we do 4 months with first employer and 8 months with the second employer, both same knock, does this make 1 year experience to apply under CEC? Atul, the answer is yes, absolutely. This work experience, as long as it meets the minimum definition of full-time work experience, CEC doesn't even require you to work continuously. That's just the Federal Skilled Worker Program. So if this is work experience obtained in Canada, and I'm assuming under CEC, the Canadian Experience class, then you can take work experience in different time fragments to combine to form the 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, whatever you're claiming. Okay, so that is the question for Atul. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you sticking it out with me. Hopefully you learned a few things today. I want to remind everyone once again, if I can find it here, that this Express Entry, complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself, is the sponsor, and it is awesome. And people like Martha have taken it and have been kind enough to give me a little bit of feedback on it. And in fact, I am just going to close with Martha's video testimonial. All right, here it is, folks.
Hello, my name is Marta. I'm originally from Colombia. I have only recently started using the Express Entry step-by-step guide, and I have to say it has been a great assistance. Even though the IRCC website has a great deal of information, in this guide that Mark has put together, he addresses some of the most commonly asked questions. He fills in the blanks, so to speak. And as a person who likes to be 150% sure of what she's doing, I have to say the guide has provided me with the reassurance that I needed to make sure that I'm going through all the steps correctly, that I'm addressing the process the right way. So my recommendation to you is use it. It is a great tool and it will definitely help you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Martha. I'll get back here with my mic. I just turned it. Sometimes it's hard, I know, for you guys to hear it, so I apologize if that was a little bit quiet. But that is Martha's little statement there. So here, I've got my mic straightened around now. So thanks so much once again for joining me, everyone. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to answer all the questions that everyone had asked, but I appreciate all that you guys do to help one another within the group. It's now become a situation where I really can't comment individually within our group. It's over, and I think for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I just want to point out this is an awesome resource for all of you guys out there, and I'm just going to I'm going to blow this up and I'm going to go straight to my Facebook page here, and this is being hosted live on my Express Entry Law Facebook group. And so when I go in here and we take a look, there's already 240 more people. People are just piling in. We're just about to 70,000. My goal was 100,000 by the end of the year, and I honestly believe that we have a huge opportunity to do that. But right now we're sitting at 68,027 members. So I will go on and I will approve all of these excellent folks to join. And the reality is, and you can see they're being added very quickly here. And then this is the live Express Entry the live Express Entry video that I did back in September, and it is on my Facebook page. It is actually pinned to the top. So if you're looking on your handheld, you don't see this. And then here is our live one right here. And so those of you who are tuning in through YouTube, you've got to request this. Join our group, because there's awesome people in here, and I do jump in and answer questions from time to time. But these questions and all of my other EE Live Q&As are all posted here. I did actually go through last night and answer a whole bunch of questions, and then ended up going to bed at 2 a.m., which the reality is I just can't sustain it, folks. Some of you are probably looking at me and saying, hey, your eyes look baggy and you look tired. And that's the truth, because I'm getting overwhelmed with everything. And the reality is, my day job is where I really got to hit it hard. That's where I've got to be at my very, very best. And that's representing all of you, doing consults, filing Express Entry applications. And I love representing all of you guys. So those who are wondering, hey, do you do representation for people? Absolutely. I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer. So that's what I do. So if you'd like to connect with me, just like I said, send me an email, send my assistant Charlene an email, and I'll put links to all of that within the comment section that everybody's commenting below. And I'll also try to make sure that those are on the YouTube channel as well. So if you want just a little bit of assistance, or you want me to give you complete peace of mind, I can do that, or even review your documents before they go out. I offer all of those services to all of you awesome people. So I look forward to joining you again as we have another EE Live Q&A. But until that time, I want to sign off by wishing all of you awesome people out there, especially those within my Express Entry Law Facebook group, just an amazing, amazing day, and all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Express Entry. Take care, everyone.